Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sales B12, the 10-minute dose of sales you don't want to miss. I'm Caryn Kopp, Chief Door Opener, and this is Jack Daly. Say hi. And we are here with today's topic, which is Jack and Caryn's favorite sales call questions. So Jack, most people know that they have to ask questions during sales calls, but not everyone knows which are the best questions to ask. So what are your favorite sales call questions?
So the first thing that I want to say, and I'm going to mention this several times, and we don't have a lot of time, but all we're trying to do here is gain trust. At the end of the day, selling is the transfer of trust. So when you start to think about what you're going to be talking about on sales calls, it's all going towards, am I getting trust here? So I don't want to walk in as a seller and put on a presentation. Right. I'm anti-PowerPoint presentations because you haven't customized it to me, and you don't even know if I'm a viable candidate for what your business is until you've done a good enough job of asking questions. So that comes down to figuring out what my needs are, figuring out what opportunities lie in front of me, what are my problems. And if I put all big word around all that, it would be digging for the pains. I need to, and by the way, my personal style is I need to sell to some degree who I really am. And that's a guy that's pretty blunt and direct. So it's not unusual for me to say, hey, our company works best when we provide solutions that our clients are really, really desirous of. So if I asked you what your pains are as a company, what might you give as an answer to that? So that's a real direct way of asking that. I'm also going to pull questions before I get there based on the homework that I did. So I went to their website. I didn't just go to the homepage. I went deep into their website, and I'm listing out the questions that I could ask. Then I'm going over to their LinkedIn profile, and I'm getting those questions. And by the way, doing that is so incredible because you're differentiating yourself from the other competitors who haven't done their homework. And that's sending a signal subliminally to the client. I ask this question of everyone that I talk to, and that is, when you think about your company, why should I pick your company? What is it that I would do as a customer of yours? Why would I make that choice compared to the XYZ competitors that you have? And then I go into talk to me about those competitors. And all of these questions that I'm kind of bouncing around right now, Caryn, it's all about trust. And I just want you to realize, and I know that you do, but the listener here, I haven't talked about my company. I haven't talked about my product. I haven't talked about my service. And quite frankly, on the first sales call, I may never get around to doing that. And I'm good with that because as you guys at Door Opener are famous for, I'm all about getting a second appointment. So that's where I come from.
Yeah, well, those are some awesome questions. And it all depends on where you are in the relationship with someone. Are you trying to get the meeting? Are you in the first meeting or in the second meeting? Are you closing? And there are different questions for each part of the sales process, which you point out in your sales playbook. So all of those questions are in there. So one that I wanted to share, it's actually a sequence. It's a 3-question sequence. I have an article coming out on this. It's just going to be hot off the press. But I'll talk about it here. After you've asked your question, so this is a little further into the sales process than at the very, very beginning. But I'd like to ask, if what we discuss is nirvana for you, what's the road to us working together? What paperwork needs to be signed and who else needs to be involved? And that's the first question of the series. I'll get to the second and the third. But what that does for you is it fishes out from the prospect's point of view, what is that road? The prospect knows what the road is to taking on a new vendor. The prospect knows if he or she is going to need to get someone else involved for approvals. So while many sellers are afraid to ask, when can I talk to your boss? The phrasing it in the who else needs to be involved will fish that out. And this way you can preempt being surprised by a surprise decision maker later in the process. Sorry, go ahead.
But this is intriguing because I think that a lot of listeners are going to feel a bit of pushback to you. And I think the reason that they would feel that way is where in the process would you tee that type of thing up? Because if it's too early, I think it could get ugly.
Yeah, well, if it's too early, it doesn't belong there. That's why I talked about the different questions in the different parts of the sales process. But depending on how a first meeting goes, you can put that at the end of the first meeting, or you can put that in the middle of the second meeting. It could go there too, right? So absolutely, the timing is really critical. You don't open with that as your first question, but that in the sequence, that would be question number one. Question number two is, by when do you want this work in your rearview mirror completed? The other day, I was on a call with one of our door opener clients, and he was asking the prospect, when will you make the decision? That's almost irrelevant. The real question is, by when do they want the work completed? Because then what you can do if the sale stalls is that you could push on and leverage that urgency to say, well, you wanted this completed by this time. If we work backwards, we need to have the decision by this time so the agreement's in place. And that can keep things moving if they stall.
And then I got to interrupt you on that one too. I'm sorry,
That's okay.
I keep doing this, but listen, time is a very critical thing for a salesperson to regularly bring up.
Yes.
I get approached by a tremendous amount of people that after they hear me speak on stage, they want to come up and go, hey, but we'd love to have you in to speak to our salespeople because what you were talking about would really make a difference for our salespeople, right? And I might ask a few questions, but it won't be long in that conversation when I say, well, when and how often do you get them together? Because I'm booked out for the most part over the next 9 months. We'll have to dig pretty hard to figure out if my timing is good enough for your needs, right? And that's sending a message of scarcity, which sells well as well. I'm not making it up. I'm everything I do is with integrity, but teeing that up raises the level of the game. And you have to be willing to do that if you really want to be in the top quartile of sales performers. So
yeah, absolutely.
So your third area.
Yeah, and so the other thing about that question number two is if they want their sales team to be doing something different and better by a certain time, then they need to bring you in before that so that you can work your magic and they can have the changes that they want. And the third question in the sequence is, why is that timing important to you? And you can follow that up with, why is that important to your leadership team or your boss, right? But why is that important to you? Because then later in the sales process, if things stall or they don't have a decision, you can also say, listen, you said that getting this done by X date was important to you because of X, Y, and Z that you told me. If we don't have this next meeting, if you don't make a decision, how will you meet your timeline? And then when you deliver a question like that, you have to be quiet and let them think.
So so that I do CEO coaching around the world, and I do it over the phone or in Zoom or Teams or what have you. I tell every one of my prospective coach clients that my favorite word of all time is why. And I ask that question a lot. And I've asked that question a lot as a salesperson when the prospect client has already answered it. And I come back and go, give it to me again. Why? And often the third time is where we really find the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. You're digging for, and it's often more emotional when you hit Y 3 times. It's much more emotional. So what can leaders do to be sure that their sellers are using the best and most effective questions?
So sports teams are run better than most businesses. You've heard that.
I've heard you say that before.
So one, they have a playbook. And by the way, my research is 98 out of every 100 companies don't have a sales playbook. So the proven systems and processes to be followed. Secondly, practice. Sports teams practice way more than they actually play games. I mean, it's probably 7-1 or higher. Pete Carroll at the Seattle Seahawks says that all of the 6 days of practice prior to the game on Sunday is more brutal than the game. The players feel like today is a day of celebration compared to the practice they've gone through. And if you don't schedule practice, it won't get done. So how often are the salespeople practicing? And then the third reason that sports teams are run better than most businesses is because the coach is on the field with their players all week long, belly to belly, face to face. And I would challenge most companies, is your sales leader, the manager, the chief revenue officer, are they in their office behind a desk and behind a computer screen? Are they active, or are they actively engaged with their salespeople? So this is the way. This is the way that you get it so that it's ingrained, and you put the pressure on people as a result of that. So what after all that, what have we not covered? What have you got a closer for me here?
I got a closer. The person with the best words wins. So know what questions you want to ask and get the information you need to keep the process moving. And I thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of Sales B12 with Jack Daly and me, Caryn Kopp. And make sure that you check out the other episodes of Sales B12 as well. And we will see you soon.
Caryn, where do we get the other episodes?
They can go to our site, which is koppconsultingusa.com, go to resources, and there's a page on Sales B12. And all the Sales B12s are listed there. They can sign up to get them as soon as they come out. They'll be released to the people who are on that list. So sign up for those as well. All right.
Always fun to do. Thanks, Caryn.
See you soon, everybody.